this from, but you can tell him. You can tell him when about it when we get going. But first, let's start with some gratitude. So good morning, Andrew. Let's type something in the chat today that you are grateful for. I'm grateful that we I had the opportunity to have an awesome, attend an awesome event in South Florida this week, the South Florida Regional Mastermind, and it was wonderful. Really, really, really good event. They had over 800 agents and leaders show up, which was like incredible. And Linda and I got to share on our podcast. And it was lots of good things, really great. Oh, Milton, I feel you. I just did the same thing last month. New tires will get you every time. Grateful for genuine friends. Love that. Awesome. So what else are you guys grateful for in the chat today? And then before Adam goes, I want to just remind you that we shared last week about 1% of your day equals about 15 minutes. So for those of you that are looking to get 1% better every day, you just need to figure out what that is that you want to get better at, and then spend about 15 minutes a day spending time on that so that you can get better. And that's the 1% rule. And I love that. Oh, Jake, awesome support system in the office. Love it. So we are going to have Adam share today.
Vacation next week. There you go, Jessica.
Oh, vacation next week. Yes. Where are you going? Type in the chat, Jess, where you're headed to. Greece. Oh, man. Love that. That is awesome. Very jealous of that. Yes. Report back for sure. So there is something called the story model, and I have used this a lot over the last year. And again, I don't remember where I learned it from Adam. I don't remember where you learned it from. Maybe, I think it was Diana Kokoska. And this is a really great model to follow around mindset. So for those of you that are driving, you may have to go back and watch, but otherwise I'm going to let Adam kind of take it away. And I'm going to use this because I want to rewrite it down as well.
Okay, fine.
Were you going to use this?
I was going to use that.
Here.
No, you can use it.
It's okay.
No, you need this more than I do. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's talk about where we go in our head when something happens. Okay, so the conversation I'm going to have with you right now is going to be very, very macro, very vague, and you're going to put in your own micro with this. So has there ever been a time when something happened, right? So let's just talk about this as a whole first. Something happens and we instantly mentally attach a story to it. Instantly. Has anyone ever had that? Just with a show of hands on the screen. Anybody done that before, where you have something's happened and you instantly attach a story to it? Yep. If you've been through Boulder, if you've worked with a coach, or if you've done any of those types of things, what about lead generation, right? How many of us on this call, if we keep it simple into real estate, have lead generated and gotten hung up on, right? And we instantly go into a story mode. Milton's raising his hands. Yes, he's done this before, where we instantly go into story mode, and it is, gosh, my scripts aren't good, or gosh, they didn't want to talk to me, or there's so many other things that we can go into about what something has, or what story is being created based on the action of what just happened. Now, there's a few of you on here, I think that I've worked with one-on-one. So we use the story model over and over and over. Some of you are driving. I can see you're driving, so I don't want you to do this if you're driving, though. If you are at your desk, I'm going to have you pull out a sheet of paper or pull out something you're taking notes on, get a pen, and I'm going to teach you the story model right now. And so therefore, when something happens and you start to create the story, I'm going to teach you how to what we call reframe your thought process. Okay. Reframe your thought process before your story becomes a reality. We don't want the story usually to become a reality. Okay. So if you've got a sheet of paper, I want you to draw a big circle, a really big circle that maybe looks like a clock, because we're going to use time here as our point of reference. So at 12 o'clock, or on the dial at 12 o'clock, I want you to write out something happens. So something happens, and this can be anything. This could be me telling you to write something happens. Now, just for fun, watch this. I'm gonna pull Dana into this.
Oh, great.
Honey, when I had you write that circle and I say at the top, 12 o'clock, something happens. I want you to write that out. Did you start to put a story in your head in any way?
I was trying to think of which one I was going to use.
So instantly we do this all the time. Something happens, okay? And then we create a story. So at 2 o'clock, I want you to write the word react. Something happens at 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you react. Then at 4 o'clock, I want you to write judgment. And then at 6 o'clock, I want you to write a story is created. Okay, now we're going to pause there for a second. So let's check out this dial on the right-hand side of this clock. Something happens. We instantly react, right? Watch this. This is going to be kind of fun. So if I flick Dana,
Ouch.
she said, ouch, there's a reaction, right? So then she's going to go into judgment and she's going to say mentally in her head, that wasn't very nice. I didn't like that. Why? I don't like you flicking me. Why are you doing that? And a story is going to be created that says, you're mean. Stop being physically abusive to me, right? That's what she's going to do. No, that's a really far out, silly example, though that's what happens when something happens, we react. Right? Let's go back to lead generation. We're making our calls. We're cold calling. We're door knocking. We're doing something like that. We react to the action of someone else. Then we start to judge. Be careful with this one. Remember, if you judge, you lose. Judgment can get you in big trouble. However, we all do it all the time. If you say you don't judge, you're probably not human. It happens. Though at 6 o'clock, when you create a story, that's where you can, well, either do something really good to change it or go on the left-hand side of the dial, which we're going to talk about here in a second, and your future starts to change. So let's take lead generation. You make
know
your
what?
calls. Yeah, go
Sorry
ahead.
to interrupt, but you know what I think is a good example of this too? You don't have to turn it on me, but is I think when we get a text or an email, sometimes then that's the something that
Mhm.
happens, and then we react to that, or I do. And then I start to go into judgment, and then I'm creating the story before I even really know.
Because you can't hear text
Right,
tones, right?
right,
Text
yeah.
does not have tones. And so we instantly go into the story.
Right.
Right. And I'm guilty of that too. I had someone inside our headquarters say you were being rude. I was actually just kind of having fun and joking, though that was the story that was created based on the text, the language that was used. Okay. Now I'm going to give you the left-hand side of the dial here. However, I want you to hear this. If from 6 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 12 o'clock, if you can keep yourself on the right-hand side of the dial and reframe thought process of that right side, you can actually reframe that the story that you've created. But if you go on the right hand side, it's going to be harder to reframe. So at 8 o'clock, I want you to write this. We seek evidence. So seek evidence at 8 o'clock. And then at 10 o'clock, I want you to write a new future is created. Okay, so
Wait, what was 10 again?
A new future is created. So this is the story model on a clock. And you can see how the left-hand side of the dial, when we go out to seek evidence, right? And what are we seeking evidence of? We're seeking evidence of the actual story that we just created in our head. And this can happen super duper fast. And it can happen super duper slow, depending on what it is you're actually going out to seek evidence for. Right? So again, I'll keep using a simple example of lead generation. If we're lead generating and we're cold calling, we're prospecting, and something happens, we pick up the phone, we start to make our calls. There is a reaction when someone hangs up on us. We judge either that person on the other end, or we judge ourselves that we're not good enough. Though the story comes out that says you didn't practice your scripts long enough, so therefore you're going to be wasting your time and you're going to be getting hung up on more. Okay, that's your story. I don't know if that's true or not. Though what you'll do is you'll go to seek evidence of that story. And the evidence is, I've made cold calls before. I've gotten hung up before. If I look at my calendar, there's no script practice time blocked in there. So you know what? The future is going to be created. I'm going to stop making calls right now. because I just really don't like what just happened. Okay, so that's a negative side of it, right? A positive side of something could be something happens. Adam gives Dana an engagement ring. She reacts because she's super excited. There's judgment that I just love this guy. The story is I can't wait to marry him. The seeking evidence is he is an amazing man. And the new future was she walks down the aisle on August 13th and now she's my wife, right? So that's the positive side of the story model. Isn't that a good one?
That was a great one.
Okay, good. So now here's the last bit of the story model. I want you to go from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock and draw an infinity symbol. Okay, all the way around from the top all the way to the bottom, right? Draw an infinity symbol. Now, this is what is happening every waking moment. Something happens and a story is created. And it's going to be our jobs as the ones that is responsible for our thought process, because this is Wednesday morning mindset, for our thought process to stay on the right-hand side of the dial. Because the right-hand side of the dial, remember, doesn't have any tactical or any tangible evidence of the story that we just created. And if we stay on that right-hand side, we can reframe our thoughts around what we want to do next. Let's go back to lead generation real quick, and then we'll open this up for conversation. So lead generation is, gosh, you know, I'm gonna pick up the phone. I'm gonna make my calls, react. Well, I didn't get the action that I didn't get the result that I wanted. So therefore, I'm probably not good at making my calls. And the story is going to be, I just don't do well with cold calls. Okay, now if we reframe that, we can reframe that by simply saying, okay, I'm going to put script practice on my calendar. I'm going to go ahead and practice with someone so I know what to say, when to say, and how to say it. And so therefore, when I make those calls again, I am not only prepared, but my story is going to be different as something happens and a story is created. Okay.
So the purpose of this would be basically, would you describe it as you want to stay on the right side?
Mhm.
So before the story is created or before you start to seek evidence, you want to reframe your mind?
Correct. Yep.
Which
Before,
one?
before you seek evidence,
Okay.
yeah, you want to reframe, because as soon as you seek evidence, you will find it.
Yeah.
Right? Your brain will find what it wants.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, Heather and I went to an event a while ago, and I think I was already not in a good headspace because things had happened before that. And then we get to the event and I thought we were going to like a resort and it was like a
I remember that.
kids water park. And so I immediately reacted, and then I started judging on where we were and what we were doing. And then I started creating this story.
Mhm.
And then I started seeking evidence. And then I was like, well, look at this. And now what about this? And now the room's dirty. And now there's kids everywhere and people are running around with all this crap. And then the new future was created. And like instantly before I knew it, I was like, you know,
In a bad
finding
space.
I was in a bad headspace.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like the whole entire time because of that situation. And I think sometimes that happens more even than we realize that it does.
This happens all the time.
Yeah.
So the neat part about the story model is this is an awareness model, right? You can sit there and you can see the dial in your head all day long if you choose to, though it's just truly an awareness model as to where are you in your thought patterns related to a specific event, related to a specific action, something along those lines. The story model literally is happening around us every waking moment.
So what's some advice for them to stay on the right side?
Be aware, right? Pay attention to anything that triggers you, right? So it can be positive and negative. Triggering can be anything, really anything. Now, I'm gonna add something to this.
Yeah.
Okay. If we think about this, I want you to draw another circle. Okay, this is called the habit loop. And if you've read, oh, I just blanked on the book, Atomic Habits. If you've read Atomic Habits, this is where this is coming from. I'm gonna shorten it, but it's something you need to see. So a habit starts with a Q, right? So at 12 o'clock on your dial, write Q. Okay.
Like QUE.
Yeah. A Q is happening, right? And then we're going to come all the way around to, let's just put it maybe like around 4 o'clock ish. you're going to write action. Okay. And then maybe around 8 o'clock, you're going to write a reward. And this is a loop that is constantly going in your world. Every single waking moment is a cue, right? A cue can be, here's a fun example. Does anybody like Krispy Kreme donuts? Those things just melt in your mouth, don't they? Yes. A cue is you're driving down the road and you see that red flashing light, or the red light that says hot donuts. You instantly, that's the cue. The cue is hot donuts. The action is get into that drive-through and go get yourself a dozen donuts, because the reward is those things are going to melt in your mouth and you're going to be in a sugar coma within 5 minutes, right? Though that is a simple, silly little example of what's called the habit loop. Now, the habit loop plays inside of the story model. Something happens. Your alarm goes off, it's 5 a.m. and you want to get out of bed to go exercise. You instantly react to, gosh, I don't want to get out of bed. I had a long night last night. I worked really hard. I can skip this day. I'm going to do it a little bit late. Hear the story, right? And what we're doing is we're actually creating a habit loop with that story. Okay. You're creating a habit loop with that story. So if we're not careful, we are actually creating, this is going a little bit scientific, but your synapses are going to start to fire and they're going to connect, right? We've learned that through BOLD, where these chemicals inside your brain that come together are going to start to create these patterns. And then you're going to have patterns in the world. And that's why we are so habitual as humans. Right? Okay. I got a little off there.
That was good.
But that is the story model, the habit model, and now we just need to be aware of it all.
Stephanie, I know you said you had something. Is it like something you could share that we could walk through, or no? Okay. No, she's saying absolutely no. Okay. I didn't know if you might be able to make it vague enough that we could use it as an example. No.
Okay, let's open this up. So where have you seen this show up before in your world? Where have you seen either the story model and the habit model show up in your world?
Who wants to be brave and share? She said, call the coach, or she's open to that.
You know, the neat part of that, and I know we're just nope. Okay. The neat part about this is, as we bring awareness to this, if you have a support group, if you have a coach or accountability partners or whatever it may be, it's okay to be open and honest about both of these models, to say, this is what is consistently happening in my world. These are the habits that I've created. These are what I'd like to create as new. And so again, it's an awareness type game where we actually have to see. So if we go, I'm going to keep using lead generation as an example. And I know that's a boring one, though it's something we probably all should be doing if we're in a sales position, is if we have a routine leading up to making our calls, right? Whether that is we say our scripts, we say our affirmations, then we get into calls, we surround ourselves with people that are also making calls. So if they fail, we don't feel like we're on a lone island, something along those lines, right? That is the habit being formed to set yourself up for success. And that's the question I'll challenge everybody is, are you where you want to be right now? And if the answer is yes, congratulations, high five. If the answer is no, what's happening with either one of these two models as it relates to your actions and winning, however you define winning your day, winning your month, winning your quarter, winning your year, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Because it all lives right there.
I find too, just the knowing the story model and being aware of it is really good for your mindset. If you can just be aware when things are happening, it instantly kind of helps your mindset stay. Curtis said Brene Brown has a great episode on the stories we tell ourselves. Highly recommend. Was that on YouTube, Curtis? Will you put in the chat where the episode, or was that when she did that? We watched a Netflix thing on her a while ago. I don't remember which one it was. Steph, yes. Do you want to share really quick about your lead gen? That would be great.
Sure. So I think sometimes we, obviously have call reluctance, and Sid, I just listened to your Sid Walker episode, and, I think for me, I tell myself, people don't want to talk to me. so I start with someone who I really like or a friend, and I just call to chat with them. And then that kind of gets the muscle going. And then I'm like, oh, people really do want to talk to me. And so I tell myself that story. But then if I just do something simple, like start with a happy birthday call or just a call I know I will enjoy, then I can reframe my message that I'm telling
Mhm.
myself.
Yep, that's totally great. And we've all heard of affirmations, right? We've all heard of affirmations. So that I would ask this question: what type of habit loop do you have around your affirmations, and what are you feeding your mind as it relates to your story, right? So with an affirmation, remember that's a creation of a story that, as we say it over and over and over, our brain starts to pick up on that repetition.
Yeah.
And remember, I could talk about this for days. Your brain is so stinking lazy, everybody. I'm gonna share this with you. Your brain is lazy. And here's why your brain's lazy. Your brain is there to do two things. Number one, protect you, right? So fight or flight. And your brain is there to make sure that you conserve energy, right? Because of fight or flight.
Mhm.
And if you think about what the brain doesn't want you to learn anything new, really. Think about how many times have we had to create new habits in our lives, and it's tough to create that new habit because if we think about what the brain is really telling us to do, the brain is saying, I don't know this. And so I'm going to put into your mind some thoughts that aren't, well, they're not going to be great stories because I don't want to have to conserve too much energy to try to do something new. Now, I'm being silly with some of the language there, but it's true, right?
Mhm.
It is true, and that's what your brain does. Your brain actually tells you, yeah, let's not try this today. You want to get up at 5 a.m.? Gosh, you've been getting up at 9 a.m. your entire life. What that doesn't sound like fun. So
Yeah.
so push snooze a few times, right? That's your brain. Now, the more we get into habits, your brain wants you to live, right? Remember the 4 learning spaces. Your brain wants you to live in an unconscious competent space. Unconscious competence is the last level of the learning space, right? We go from unconscious incompetence, which is what we know what we don't know. No, we don't know what we don't know, to a conscious incompetence. Now we know what we don't know, to a conscious competence. Now we know what we know, to an unconscious competence. Now we don't have to know what we already know,
Mhm.
right? How many of you tied your shoes? How many of you brushed your teeth? How many of you drove here to wherever you are and didn't even remember driving to where you are? That's an unconscious competence. That's what your brain wants. So the more patterns, the more habits, the more stories, through affirmations that you can put into your brain that are not new, right? So we do them over and over and over. You will actually start to live in an unconscious competent space. Sorry,
Yep.
I got a little.
No,
Hello,
love it.
Father.
It's perfect. Love it.
I can geek out on the brain sometimes.
I love it. Was this helpful? Did you guys like that? I think it's very, 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 very good to just be aware and to know the story model so that when things start to happen and you start to create the story. And Katie said something really good in the chat too, in regards, I think, to what Stephanie was talking about, starting with gratitude, like a gratitude
Mhm.
touch is really good in the beginning also. Awesome. All right, guys, thanks so much.
Hold on, I want to end with a little quote around gratitude.
Oh, go for it.
So, but I won't use the actual words. So I had a mentor tell me this one time, which I thought was phenomenal. And he said, gratitude will place you at the door of success. Gratitude will place you at the door of success. Servitude will kick the mother effort down, right? So they use some fun words there, of course. So gratitude will place you at the door of success, and servitude will kick the door down. Kick the door of success down.
Love it.
Mhm.
Awesome. I'm writing that down too. All right, guys. Thanks for being on. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks, guys, for letting me be here.
See you later.
Bye.